What's up YouTube, Capital G here, checking out a brand new number XC monster that just got revealed. This is going to be released in the Collection Pack 19 for the OCG, which should translate into Battles of Legends in July for the TCG, so it's not going to be that long of a wait. I said this in my last number video, but there can't be that many more number monsters still out there in the wild, so I feel like we definitely are winding down. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about number 76, Gladiel, the Melody La Maestra. And before we do, can I just talk about for a second how absolutely gorgeous and beautiful the artwork is on this card. This is magnificent. This is one of the best artworks that we've gotten probably in like the last half decade. I've always been a really big fan of pastel and bright colors, and this thing is just overflowing with colors, man. It reminds me of like a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure opening or something like that. I don't know who the artist is of this card, but Konami definitely needs to hire them again. Anyways, this is a rank 7 light fairy XC monster. It just kind of looks like a fairy. It almost looks like a Melodious monster, to be honest, or maybe like a weather painter. It is 2700 attack and 2100 defense, so you've got a pretty good stat line. It's completely generic as it just requires 2 level 7 monsters to summon. Okay, and it says that the third effect is a hard once per turn. This card has 3 effects. The first one is this card's attribute is also treated as the same attribute of its materials. Second effect, cannot be destroyed by battle with a monster with the same attribute as this card. Also cannot be destroyed by the effects of monsters with the same attribute of this card. And then it says the third effect is quick effect. You can target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, detach 1 XC material from this card, and if you do, attach that monster to this card as a material. Okay, so there's a lot going on with Gladiel. For starters, it is giving me that Light and Darkness Dragon vibe where it can have multiple attributes simultaneously while on the field. Some of the new Samor cards coming out of Rising Rampage can do this as well. I do like the fact that it gets a nice little level of monster protection based on those attributes, and this card can actually go further beyond some of those other cards because this card can actually have 3 attributes simultaneously. A lot of other cards can only have 2. You know, the fact that your opponent cannot destroy the card by battle or use card destruction against a deck like maybe Endymions, where most of what they do, most of their removal is destruction based, or you know, just kind of related to running over monsters with beaters. If you happen to turn this dark against a deck like that, it might be really difficult for them to actually get over. Or against a deck like Invoked, if you have multiple attributes and they just can't beat over it, that could be kind of tough. The third effect is really appealing to this card, and some people might not think it's all that great of a disruption, but when you really think about it, it can kind of be like a DD Crow type effect and even a little bit better, right? Like, let's just think about this in the sense of disrupting your opponent when they have something in the graveyard where maybe they want to banish that monster to summon something else. I'm looking at a deck like Orcus. As soon as they send something important to the graveyard, you could easily just kind of tag out one of your useless XC materials. You could take their monster before they get the chance to banish it. If you're playing against a deck like Salamangreats and they have one of their extenders, like they send Spinny to the graveyard, just go ahead and swap into that Spinny, take it as a material, thus they'll never be able to use it. Or even something like you could go offensive where maybe your opponent has like a Sky Striker Ace Ray in the graveyard and they have maybe a Link monster on field. You'd have the ability to attack into their Link monster, take their Ray on like attack declaration, and then they would not be able to summon the Ray because it would be attached to you as a material. So I look at that and it is kind of like a DD Crow type ability. I like the fact that you can keep using it over and over again because you're never really going to run out of materials for this card, because every time you essentially use the effect, it does kind of replace a material, and you don't really see cards like that in Yu-Gi-Oh! Very often. These XC monsters that kind of replenish their materials or never really lose materials even when they activate their effect. I do think that the biggest glaring Achilles heel of this card is the fact that it doesn't have any type of protection from monster targeting effects. So there are going to be decks out there in the meta like Guru Control. They can just put it face down with Guru. Altergeist have Sequidius and Miluseek. Salamangreats can bounce with Mirage Stalio. It kind of feels like every deck has 1 or 2 good options to just kind of target this card with a monster effect, and it's completely susceptible to that, but at least you are kind of pinning your your opponent down and putting them in a corner to where maybe they only have 1 or 2 good outs in their deck, and you just have to kind of worry about those. I really do think that third effect is incredibly valuable, being able to disrupt your opponent's graveyard, especially against decks like Orcust and Salamangreats, where their graveyard is just full of extenders and they almost become second decks. That is something that you definitely cannot take lightly, especially when the graveyard is just so important right now in Yu-Gi-Oh! But whatever you guys think of number 76, Gladiel, the Melody, La Maestra, leave it in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already, and turn on that notification bell for daily videos.